Thank you so much, Tanya and Lonnie, for that interview. It's so wonderful to hear Tanya's story, and it's so inspirational. And it's probably my favorite part about being involved with Running Denver is hearing stories like that. So we're here with another inspiration to me, at least, and to a lot of people as well, Abby McQueeny Penamonte. She's the 2013 winner of the Grand Slam of Ultrarunning. So let's think about one 100-mile race. That's a lot of preparation, a lot of time, a lot of dedication that goes into being prepared for one 100-mile race. If you're not familiar with the Grand Slam of Ultrarunning, that's 4 100-mile races within about a 10-week period, starting off with Western States 100 in California. Then you move on to Vermont 100 in about July. August, you come here to Colorado for Leadville, and then you wrap up in Utah for the Wasatch 100 mile race to complete the Grand Slam. So we're here with the 2013 winner. Thank you so much for being here, Abby.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So just tell us a little bit about the Grand Slam and what that was like. That had to be just insane in terms of preparation, and I just wouldn't even know where to start. What can you tell us about that experience?
Well, the great thing was that I hired an awesome coach. So I worked with Nick Clark, and really it was definitely a huge summer, but a lot of your training you do in regards to training for Western States. And then after that, it's really a matter of just taking care of yourself and recovering and really kind of like doing like a reverse taper in between those races. So all of my training was really geared up for Western States. And then, like I said, after that, it was taking like a week off in between races of completely no running, and then introducing like light jogging, and then doing a little bit more like race specific stuff. So like for Leadville, getting up at altitude, and then really just starting that taper again and getting ready for each race. Coach. So I worked with Nick Clark, and really it was definitely a huge summer, but a lot of your training you do in regards to training for Western States. And then after that, it's really a matter of just taking care of yourself and recovering and really kind of like doing like a reverse taper in between those races. So all of my training was really geared up for Western States. And then, like I said, after that, it was taking like a week off in between races of completely no running, and then introducing like light jogging, and then doing a little bit more like race specific stuff. So like for Leadville, getting up at altitude, and then really just starting that taper again and getting ready for each race.
Wow. So of those 4 races, was one of them like harder for you, and why?
I think that they're all challenging in their own ways, but I would say that the Vermont 100 was probably the hardest of all of the races in the slam, and really any race I think that I've done. It was just both mentally and physically demanding. I think I came out of Western States. That was probably my best race in my running career, and was on a decent high from that. But also went into Vermont with some big expectations after Western States, and I just don't think I was completely recovered. So towed the line and, knew what I needed to do, and about a mile into the race, I'm like, this is going to be a really long day.
Wow.
And then I remember getting to the marathon point, 26 miles, and again, I was like, wow, I'm like, I need to do 3 more of these. So it was one of those kind of days, and my parents had come out to watch me also, and my mom joked about, she's like, I didn't know which Abby I was going to get at the aid station. She's like, one moment you're, really happy, and the next moment you're like crying and just moody, and it was very tough. But the cool thing about hundreds is that, it's very much mental, and you can really like flip that switch, and you can get yourself to that finish line.
So, wow. So having such a great race for your first 100 of the Grand Slam, and then having a more difficult time with the second, what did you do, and how did you stay motivated and get yourself prepped for the third, knowing that you still had 2 of them left?
Yeah, I think after Vermont, I felt kind of mentally defeated, not quite accomplishing what I wanted to, and really just, like not meeting my expectations. So in preparation for Leadville, I think I kind of like had to take off some of my expectations and really just like get back to basics and make sure that I was recovered, and make sure that I had good altitude training, and really just go into that race a little bit more conservatively and just kind of like, you know, it sounds cheesy, but listen to your body and kind of adjust your race based off of that. And it worked.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome. So clearly you've done a lot of running in your career. What advice would you have for brand new runners?
I would say consistency. Just get yourself into a good routine where you're, you know, planning out your run each day and making it happen. I think, you know, the hard thing when you probably get into running is that, you know, not every day feels great, and sometimes it's hard to just like take that first step. But I think if you know, put it in your calendar, or, you know, you have a training partner, I think that that's helpful.
And then, so kind of conversely, on the flip side, that's great advice for new runners. What advice would you have for new ultra runners or aspiring ultra runners?
I would say the same thing, consistency, and then make sure that you're doing your long runs and those back-to-back long runs, and then training specific for the race that you're doing.
Okay, great. Well, Abby is also a registered dietitian, so kind of along those same lines, those questions I just asked, what advice would you have for new runners, let's say, for nutrition tips?
So I think one of the things that a lot of clients ask me about, you know, they're training for certain races and they want to know what they should eat, you know, like the night before a race or the day of a race. And I say it's just like training. I mean, before you can actually get to that race, you have to put in the work beforehand. So same thing goes with nutrition. You have to work on your daily diet. And a lot of people just don't have those fundamentals. So some of the basics I encourage people to think about, I tell people to eat with their hands. So make sure that you get protein the size of your hand. Make sure you have vegetables at least the size of your fist. Carbohydrates, try and limit to about the size of your fist. And then your healthy fats are usually integrated in there. So really just starting out with those foundations of nutrition, making sure they get the right nutrients.
And I'm sure that, I mean, if you're saying it's a foundation, that goes for runners of any distance. How does, like, what additional nutritional advice would you offer for ultra runners, or how would that look different than just the basics?
So with ultra runners and really any runner and really any person, I do encourage what I call like fat utilization or metabolic efficiency. Contrary to what a lot of people think, fat is actually our primary fuel source. So carbohydrates are not the fuel source or the preferred fuel source. So we have endless amounts of fat available, and the goal is to try and teach our body to utilize our fat stores and preserve those carbohydrates. And the way to achieve that is by moderating our carbohydrate intake and then making sure we have a good balance of those healthy fats and moderate protein. So when you look at like the standard American diet, it's very heavy in carbohydrates and specifically like refined carbs. So really just trying to scale back on that stuff and boosting up fat intake in the diet.
Okay, great. That sounds cool. I'll be curious to hear how your first competition goes. I'm sure you'll do wonderful.
Hopefully.
Great. Well, anything else you'd like to share with us? Or?
No, thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for coming. And if you'd like to see Abby's full interview, you can find it at runningdenver.com.